Hi, welcome to the Growth Through Grief podcast, where we interview individuals just like you who are dealing with their own journey from loss to growth, along with mental health experts, growth guides, all with the purpose of helping you heal better, improve mind, body, and spirit, and find your new purpose from the loss and the tragedy that you've unfortunately experienced. Hi, I'm Tom Pacello. I'm your host. I'm a growth evangelist, as well as a fellow widower. I lost my beautiful bride of 19 years, Judy, 5 years ago. My guest today is Carolyn Moor. She is the president, founder, and development director of the Modern Widows Club. She was widowed on Valentine's Day of 2000, 2 young daughters to raise, and she did that solo. Carolyn struggled to find mentors, resources, and she needed a model, the healing and growth she desperately sought in the stage of widowhood that she was in. And this inspired her for her new purpose, which was to create the Modern Widows Club. And she did that back in 2011. She's going to talk about the success of that organization and what that could mean for us, maybe to model that as our mentor for the men and the widowers. She's a successful speaker, author, a TEDx speaker. She is the thought leader of the Healthy Widow movement. And we're here to explore some of her research and to learn from her on how to heal. Welcome, Carolyn Moor.
Great to be here, Tom.
Thank you so much. Well, first, I want to learn a little bit about Valentine's Day 2000 and your personal journey with grief.
Yes. Well, I don't think anyone wants to lose the person they love on Valentine's Day. I actually have met some other ladies who that has happened to, so it's been a very interesting part of my journey. I think we all go out to dinner and believe that we're going to have the best date of our life. I was fortunate. I was in a wonderful marriage and business partnership, actually, as a designer and him as an architect. But that evening, we were just right downtown by the courthouse, and where that S curve is, we had a hit and run driver crash into our car, and it caused us to spin out of control as he was trying to control with them coming into the lane. And we hit a light pole right across from him. And the pole came down and hit his head. So I ended up being the only survivor of the car accident and also the first responder. So it was extremely traumatic. I really, up until that point, had no real trauma happen in my life. We were 36 years old and kind of had our dream life.
Yeah.
So because I was a nurse in my 20s, I actually knew how to respond, triage in that moment. But you're also a person's wife.
And also hurt yourself, I would imagine, too.
You don't even realize if you're hurt or not. I honestly didn't even realize I had blood on me until I got to the hospital.
So sorry.
It's interesting how the brain protects you in a lot of ways in traumatic moments like that. But just a complete shock. I think my grief journey was as messy as it gets. I think that was ordained somewhat by God, that you're going to have the worst experience, somehow setting me onto the trajectory of where I am today. Gosh, it just makes me emotional just thinking about it, because that's how trauma works, right? You don't want to go back to think about those moments, but they're that close. And I think that's what's so hard about grieving people, is they work so hard not to make this happen. And it takes a lot of mental fortitude and a lot of emotional regulation in order for that to happen. But it's there. Yeah. It's always there. We're simply working through it. So, for me, losing my best friend,
your business partner.
My business partner, my daughters were only 2 and 4 years old, like you said, and I had no family in town. We moved to Winter Park to work here. And so it was it's just shattering, disorienting. I was scared of everything. I was a completely confident woman, and in the next moment, it was like everything was obliterated. So I had no frame of reference for that to even remotely happen for me, even though my mother had been widowed 2 years before.
Yeah.
I had no idea. I wasn't
Yeah.
there for her. I was clueless to the anguish that widowhood brings into your life and how every aspect of your life it touches. So nothing stays the same. And I always like to think of it as like, those mobiles, like a mobile, you move one thing and everything moves. That's what widowhood is like. Everything is moving, and the anxiety and stress that causes is
and you don't know where any of the pieces are going. There's kind of like just this randomness to it, right? Yeah.
Yeah. So you're looking for this grounding, this centering point, because your life is spinning out of control. And so what's that going to be? Right. Yeah. For some people, it's their faith. I was lucky. I went to New Hope for Kids in Maitland, which I was on the board there for 12 years. And I discovered a language for grief.
Yeah.
But then I left a year later. I was still in brain fog. I didn't know what I was doing. I was so lost.
Now,
so lost.
Yeah. Now that inspired you, though, because you were lost. You did have some resources. I'm sure the neighbors and friends rallied around you. But after a while, it becomes difficult because no one knows the situation that you're in. And some of the resources that are valuable short term, they don't help with the longer term healing. And so same with me, I kind of looked around and said, okay, everyone was here through the trauma part of it. And now I've got this life to pick up and my kid's life to pick up. Where's the resources? Where's the help? But that was an inspiration for you. Tell us about kind of where you got the spark to start the Modern Widows Club and what it's all about.
I think becoming widowed makes you a naturally more compassionate and empathetic person. I certainly am more now than I feel like I was before. I think I had a little bit of an arrogance about myself, and I kind of knew how to do life because I was doing it so well. Then this comes along and it's like, okay, now what? So I'm a big people person. We built a 50-person interior design firm not only because we were talented, but because we knew people well. And so I had that in my favor. And I thought, I just need to find other widows like me, raising kids, running businesses, rebuilding their life. And I found that to be extremely difficult.
Yeah.
And so that's where the hopelessness starts coming in, because you don't know where to find them. This was before social media. I mean, I was widowed before September 11th.
Yeah.
So the idea of young widows was one type, military. And so I felt like an alien. And so I thought if I could find other women like me, then I could have hope. And I could ask them a lot of really hard questions, dating, babysitting. How do you bring men into your life? How do you trust them with girls? It really deep questions. And it took me 10 years. It took me, I really didn't find the mentors that I needed. I found a lot of women coming to me, partly because of being on TLC, on Oprah, a lot of influx. But I couldn't find, so I became what I needed, which was a mentor and a role model. And that's really what happened is I went, well, if there wasn't a lot of resources to reduce my suffering, but maybe I can reduce someone else's suffering, and that will bring great purpose and fulfillment and meaning in my life. And it has. And I just started with 2 ladies here, literally right here in my home. And when you see someone's suffering lessen and you're shouldering it while you're companioning them and holding the space, a whole new magical world opens up that you don't know exists until you're in those intimate conversations where you get it. There's so much you don't have to say in that environment, and there's so much you can say
Mm-hmm.
with that non-judgmental sort of just conversations.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right?
Just being
There's
there
so much
for a hand to
judgment
hold.
Outside in society and everywhere we go, and then you get into an environment of people where the heart's beating in the same pace.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
It's like, oh gosh, I
Well, I
don't
know
have
for
to.
you and the mentors, just like for
Mhm.
me, that there was a lot of healing that actually came out of that service, to where there were things that I probably didn't process until I started to hear from other people and started to realize, wow, I still have some work to do here, there, the other, or, you learn almost as much from those situations and the sharing as the gift of healing that you wind up giving as trying to be the mentor. So the mentee sometimes is helping the mentor as much as the mentor is helping the mentee.
Absolutely. It's reciprocal indeed.
Yeah.
And if you study the resilient science, the giving back portion is the last part of the healing cycle.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's documented, it's studied.
Yeah.
So if you get to that point and you step into that, then you're going to receive blessings that you never even knew existed.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's why group is so important. I still today, I don't, everything that I have learned from widows. I'm always very clear about that. This PhD in uncommon knowledge that I have is directly from tens of thousands of widows sharing with me.
I love it. And talk about the organization just a little bit. You didn't give us kind of the overview of it. How is it organized? How many women are a part of it?
We have about 50,000 women that we know of in our organization. Modern Widows Club is really a women's health organization focused on widows. And we really do a lot of awareness and advocacy around why women in widowhood would be considered a health crisis. Even though the Homes and Raised Social Readjustment Scale lists all these different life events and gives them an actual stress score, and losing a spouse is number one. It's 100 points. And so if you look at everything on that list, I mean, most people, when I explain it, I have to say, have you ever gone through a divorce? Well, that was 73 points. Have you ever had a baby? I mean, everyone believes, the most stressful thing is having a baby. 39 points. We're losing a spouse is beyond all of that stress, but it's all of the smaller secondary losses compounded. That if you get up to about 300 stress points, you have an 80% chance of becoming ill within the first 2 years. That's something to pay attention to.
Yeah. Yeah. And even if it's not the 300, even if it's just maybe the loss of the spouse plus one or two